There are great videos out there, but I haven't seen anyone kind of making the same suggestions that I have. And these are just suggestions that I wish someone had made for me before I started this journey. Whatever it is that your journey is on, whether you are an instrument rated pilot, whether you're just thinking about getting your instrument rating, if you're not even a private pilot yet, I hope that this helps you. And if you're Hey y'all, Ryan Gromfin here with Pilot Rhino. I'm standing in front of the RV10, Vans RV10 that I'm building. If you're interested in learning more about that, go check out any of my other videos. But today I wanted to talk to you about sort of the journey to receiving my instrument rating and what I would absolutely do differently if given the opportunity to do this again, or the advice that I'm giving to a couple of friends of mine who are interested in pursuing their instrument rating. So some quick brief history here. I got my private pilot on December 25th, on Christmas Day of 2006. It is now December 4th of 2023. So 17 years ago, I got my private pilot. And between then and a couple of years ago, I did very little flying. In fact, I think I only flew about 5 hours after I got my private. It was a goal of mine to get it, and then just so I was able to kind of save up the money and work hard through it. But those were in my 20s when I was, just starting out on a career. I eventually got engaged to the woman I was dating during that time and married, and we had a kid and started businesses and just kind of life, right? So about 2-3 years ago, I got back into flying, wanted to build an airplane. It's always been a goal of mine. And I bought into a partnership on a 182. Now, one of the promises I made myself a long time ago was I was never going to do any serious flying with or without my family unless I had my instrument rating. And so that was something that had to happen. And being a partner in the 182 and having a great CFII that's involved in our partnership at a really good rate. He's got like 10,000 hours, military guy, flew for the Army, for like 25 years, and then has been a CFII for like 20 years. So, I mean, he's fantastic. I just thought I would just tell him I want to get my instrument rating and we would get our instrument rating. And there you go. Well, a year and a half later, I got my instrument rating. And a couple of people had told me about like some 10-day IFR like accelerated courses. And I was like, I can't leave my family for 12 days. I can't leave my job for 12 days, right? A day to fly there, 10 days of training, a day to fly home. So I'll just do this. I thought this was going to be a 3 or 4 month process. I thought this was going to be maybe 5 or 6 months at the most. But between my schedule, the airplane schedule, my CFII schedule, weather, and then just the chaos of finding a DPE right now, this journey took absolutely forever. So for those of you interested in pursuing your instrument rating, you should. It's phenomenal. It's an incredible amount of fun. It's incredibly rewarding, flying in the clouds and taking your foggles off, or actually in the clouds and then just 200 feet off the ground on a ILS approach, looking out, and here you are dead center on the center line with a runway, and you've been in the clouds for the last 2 hours, is just absolutely incredible that it works, and it does work. What's even more incredible is that it worked before GPSs. But again, the advice I want to give here is take a very, very good online ground school. I kind of cheaped out. I did the Sporties course and it was fine, but looking back, some of the other courses are going to be far more in depth, more expensive, but far more in depth. And I wish I did that because I really struggled with the written and the ground portion. The Shepherd Air test prep, fantastic. I did a whole video on kind of written test prep that I'll put a link for here. But if anything, honestly, I would take an in-person ground school. If you want to do one of the online courses to kind of prep you and then go to the in-person ground school, but I would do an in-person ground school. There are so many questions and so many scenarios and so many circumstances that I didn't really start figuring out until even after I took the written and passed the written. But when I was really preparing for my oral and my practical, when all of these situations started coming up, that I was like, man, I mean, I asked my CFII, of course, but I ended up taking actually probably 2 or 3 times, probably 6 or 7 hours of one-on-one ground with someone who only does simulator and ground school training for instrument. Which brings me to my second point. I would absolutely positively do some of your training in a simulator. Not for the reasons of replacing the value of actually flying in an airplane, but like I struggled with VOR holds. But when I say VOR holds, I mean only using VOR. Navigating to the hold on a VOR, establishing yourself in the hold, staying in the hold on windy days in actual IMC without my iPad or GPS for situational awareness. And so it wasn't until I did 2.5 hours in the simulator where we just did one hold, did it 7 or 8 times until I got it perfect. Then we departed there, did another hold 7 or 8 times, then departed there 7 or 8 times. Like you can't do that in an airplane. I mean, you could, but being able to pause it, hit the space button, pause it, ask the instructor questions, work out some math on the whiteboard, kind of figure it out in my head, and then hit the play button again and see that come to life. Like you can't hit pause in an airplane. So my second piece of advice, the first piece of advice is take a really good quality ground school, whether that be in person or online, but don't get cheap there. 2, do some of your flying in a simulator so you could, whatever it is that you're struggling with, you can just hit that. If you're struggling with DME arcs, let's say, you could just do an arc and then an arc and then an arc. Those were actually pretty easier than I thought. And then the third kind of piece of advice that I have here is, for me, I thought that a 10-day ground school was going to be harder. And I can tell you right now, it was harder on my family. It was harder on me doing this over a year and a half. If you are even remotely able to, even if you don't think you're able to, go do a 10-day IFR course. Now, from the people I've spoken to, I do not think a 10-day IFR course will make you a great IFR instrument pilot. I think it will get you your results that you need. It will get you to pass the test. Then, after you pass the test, come home and do another 10 hours with a CFII to really drill in whatever your weaknesses were. Even now, I mean, we did about 60 hours in simulated or actual, plus my CFI and I have flown about another 40 together. We have about 100 hours together in the last year. In the last like 2 years. And I still don't feel like I'm a great instrument pilot. How could you? I feel like I'm competent and safe, but we were joking after I passed, like this is when the learning begins. Now that you have the rating and you can go up and slowly push your limits, not hard, but you can start at 1,000-foot minimums, 3 miles visibility, do a few actual approaches with a safety pilot or alone. And then you can really go on longer cross countries and not be afraid about hitting some clouds on the way home. Not pushing yourself, but this is where the learning begins. Like you're private. You're not a great pilot at 40, 50 hours, but it gives you the right to get in an airplane and learn. So for me, I wish I hopped in my 182, flew 6 or 7 hours to where they offer. Most of them are up in like Minnesota. I don't know why, but flew up to one of those 10-day schools where, by the way, the instructor is the owner who's the DPE. You're gonna pass. They guarantee it. I really wish I did that. I wish I just bit the bullet, wrote the check. I've spent more money than I would have if I did that. It took more time. So my suggestion is take a really good ground school, do some work in a simulator, and go take a 10-day IFR course. And then I will update you sort of a little bit of my journey now in practical, in real world situations. But the last thing I want to say is I was super nervous going into the practical, and my watching some of these YouTube videos about IFR, mock orals and horror stories and such. I hope that the gentleman who did my practical, I hope that everyone else out there has as lovely and as amazing of an experience as I did. The DPE was fair, kind, very organized, very proficient, very systematic, and really not only calmed me down, but laid out exactly what we were going to do and was not interested in throwing surprises at me or making things overly difficult. He spaced out all of our approaches, so there was 6 or 7, maybe 10 minutes of cruise flight from either going missed or doing a touch and go or whatever we did to get set up for the next approach. He briefed me ahead of time of what potential failure or what result he wanted, whether we were going to stay under the foggles and go missed. We knew that ahead of time. So that way I was really able to show him that I'm capable of flying this airplane and I know what I'm doing, rather than me being nervous at every second or every time I saw his hand move of what's he going to do? Is he going to take my iPad away? Is he going to turn off my GPS in the middle of a VOR approach? Like, it was wonderful. It was great. It was still very challenging and very stressful, but I just feel so relieved and so good right now. So again, this video dragged on a little bit longer, but boy, do I wish that I had a video like this to watch. There are great videos out there, but I haven't seen anyone kind of making the same suggestions that I have. And these are just suggestions that I wish someone had made for me before I started this journey. Whatever it is that your journey is on, whether you are an instrument rated pilot, whether you're just thinking about getting your instrument rating, if you're not even a private pilot yet, I hope that this helps you. And if you're interested in following along my build on my RV10, check out other or more of my videos here on the Pilot Rhino page. As I start to travel a little bit more with my family and I'm spending less time studying and practicing, I'll try to bring you some more fun videos about vacations and destinations and maybe things that I've learned or mistakes I've made. But I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day and best of luck on your journey. What do they say? Tailwinds and blue skies. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.